I feel like today should give you some copium, like if we are able to have that game won where the game is completely over in 4 minutes, laugh it off, come back the second game and win versus the best team in the region, there should be no reason why, like going into playoffs with even more practice, we're not able to, contend and compete with all the best teams.
I'm joined by Mabrey, the coach of Dignitas, after a 2-1 defeat to Team Liquid. Mabrey, can you talk to me a little bit about game two and how you decided to basically play the same comp except, basically a salty run back with Poppy in the top lane?
Yeah, after the game one, we were pretty confident with our draft and our prep going in. I don't know if you remember the game, but we basically got ace across the board, like 4 minutes with the lane swap, and that's fine. They have more experience in those situations, and we kind of just misplayed. But even after the fact, we're still able to win fights, and we were confident with the comp, and that was what we practiced a lot. So we figured just run it back, don't make those mistakes in the early game, and we'll be good to go for the second game.
All right. The second game went pretty well, but then the third game, you guys picked Kindred Zillion. And while those two players have played those champions before, and that's a combo that Jensen's used to, it seemed like the team, Spica and Jensen weren't really practiced. So were you guys practiced with this sort of combo, or was it something like, yeah, I think we could pull it out?
To be completely honest, we had like a few games on it, but not that many. We were much more practiced with like the Tristana and the Corki draft. So once we were on red side and both of those were banned, it was like a little bit more experimental territory for us. So yeah, we definitely could use some more practice in those situations.
All right. What has been the biggest challenge that you faced with this Dignitas roster? Because this roster is very different than last split, you know?
Yeah, it's there's definitely a lot more like managing personalities on this team compared to the last roster. I think the last roster had a lot less voices on the team, for better or worse. When there's less voices, it's easier to get people on the same page. But I feel like this roster with stronger personalities is gonna be better in the long run, but it's gonna take some more time to get everyone on the same page about playing the game. So I feel like that would be probably the biggest challenge going into summer. We changed 4/5 of our roster going into a summer season where a lot of the other top teams have been playing for at least like a full split, if not like having a majority of their roster and staff going into the next year or from the last summer. So we've just been playing a lot of catch up, and yeah.
Back in 2016, there was an 80 carry called Impactful that got a ban for something, and that was sort of the last I heard of him. But then he came back playing support in Academy, and in 2021, he becomes a coach on Dignitas called Mabrey. Uh, could
Yeah.
you could you tell me a bit about that transition from being a player who played 80 carry, played support, to actually coaching players that play 80 carry and support?
Yeah, sure. I don't remember what I got banned for. I think it was elo boosting.
It was, yeah. I
I
don't want
was
to say, but
back in some rough times. I didn't actually. The only reason I came back into support was I was on Echo Fox as a positional coach, and we basically had a situation where the academy team was like they were like last place, 2-11 or something, and they were having issues within the team, and they didn't have a support player at the time. So we had Adrian on the LCS team, and for whatever reason, he wasn't playing academy. So at the time, I was still actively playing the game, and I figured like I know the guys on the team, and they just asked me to sub in for a few games. It wasn't like I was really making trying to make a career as a support player or anything like that. But I was also at a time where like I was in the scene as a coach that year, but I was still playing a lot and I still wanted to be a player and I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a coach. Um so that 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 was that kind of that situation. And when I was on Echo Fox, I ended up becoming really close with Peter Zhang and Nick Smith, Nero, the coach for Immortals. And I really respected both of those guys a lot. And after that year, Peter Zhang was the academy coach, and he ended up moving to TSM. So Echo Fox needed an academy coach, and all the staff on Echo Fox kind of thought like I would be a pretty good coach. And at the time, I wasn't really sure. I was like, I don't really know if that's for me or if that's what I want to do. But one thing led to another, and here I am, and 6 years later. So I've been doing it ever since.
just we talked about this a little bit, but you're playing with a very veteran team, and I know one thing could be like managing voices, but what exactly does a coach bring to players that kind of already know what they want to do, you know?
Um, yeah, I think I think one of my strengths as a coach, for example, on a roster like this, is I'm a pretty good listener and I'm very personable. I can have like conversations with one on one, and I can kind of lead the conversation to get everybody on the same page. Um, but I also, even though these guys have like they have a lot of knowledge about the game, it still helps to have a coach, watching the games from a third person who can kind of identify like the big mistakes or where we're going wrong. And I think, regardless of the game knowledge on the team, that's always like the role of a coach.
We started off with a win. Actually, it wasn't a win. It was you guys went 1-1 to start, but it was like big season. People were excited, and now you guys are 1-3. You've lost, multiple games in a row. Um, this roster was made to go to Worlds. You don't sort of scrap 4/5 of the roster, get rid of your head coach, and completely retool if you're not making a big push. Starting off 1-3 with such a short season, how much pressure does that put on yourselves? Or are you guys like, oh, maybe it was strength of schedule? Because you did play Team Liquid and Cloud9, which are the two top teams. So what is
Yeah,
the internal feeling right now?
I think there's like almost zero pressure. Like we left this series that we just played now like completely happy with how it went. We didn't win today, but I think like we're on the right trajectory and the team environment is really good. And I'm really not worried about us like making playoffs and having a good run for Worlds. I think even with like such limited practice, I mean, you saw in the series versus Cloud9, it was competitive. And even this one versus TL, they just came from EWC and almost BT1 and were able to put up a fight, even in games where the early game is like a complete disaster. So, I mean, I don't think there should be any pressure on us and like where our situation right now.
All right, I want to shift focus a little bit to like content. I'll ask you a bit for content that I'm making. But first, Dig is one of those teams that actually does make content. Does content creation, requiring your players to make content, does it actually take away from their focus, from how they practice, or is it maybe just you're tired after practice and you don't really want to do it? Like, what is this whole stigma behind players making content or the lack thereof?
I mean, I'm not really familiar with the stigma around content creation, or I'm not really big in the space of content. Like, I don't do that much content myself. But I mean, what I can assume is our practice schedule is pretty rigid. We have one off day a week. We show up at the office at 10 and we leave at 7:30, 8:30 every day. So there really isn't that much time to do things throughout the week. And I mean, being a pro player is very exhausting. And then I know there's been like even some ask from Riot and stuff about doing content on the off days. And like, I feel like the last thing players want to do on their off day is content. So it's just hard to fit it in, to be honest. And I'm sure for some players like that like to do content, it's less exhausting than others. So I guess it depends on the person.
All right. I have a game to play with you. It's called Would You Rather. It's relatively simple. I give you two options and you pick one. Would you rather have Jensen play tank supports in mid lane or have Isles play 80 junglers in support?
Wait, Jensen played tank supports in mid lane, or Isles play 80 junglers in support.
Yeah.
Um, I would rather have Jensen play tanks in mid lane because then at least Pika can play a carry,
Okay.
and he's good at those. So
All right, you can pull out the Yeet Eric or something. Um,
maybe I'll keep that in mind for our next games.
if you do, I'm clipping this, meaning like I said that.
Yeah.
Would you rather be a coach in the LPL or in the LCK?
Um, I don't know. Honestly, we've watched a lot of documentaries of LPL teams and how their coaches work, and it seems kind of chill. You just yell like "Yahoo fighting, believe," and that's really all you see on camera. So maybe LPL.
Have you seen the what is it called? Make It or Break It? The LPL did like a whole documentary in 2021, the year that EDG won, and they had like all the behind the scenes of EDG and like a
Oh
bunch
yeah,
of
yeah,
other
yeah.
teams. It was really insightful. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I've seen most of the LPL documentaries. I really like watching those.
yeah, they're
We
really
watch them as
cool.
a team and stuff too. Like last split, we would watch them after scrims
Oh, that's cool.
just for fun.
All right, last one's a bit of a meme. Would you rather be a stay-at-home dad, referencing your World of Warcraft PvP team that you were you were on, or a professional swimmer, referencing obviously you swam when you were in high
Oh,
school.
for sure, a stay-at-home dad. That's like my goal in life, you know. One day I'm retired, just chill at home.
All right. Do you have anything to say to the? Actually, how about this? Could you try to buy in the fans that are maybe not too sure if it's dig season yet or not?
How do I? You want me to buy them in?
Yeah, give them some words of encouragement. Make them believe. Sell them some copium.
Well, I feel like today should give you some copium. You know, like if we are able to have that game won, where the game is completely over in 4 minutes, laugh it off, come back the second game and win versus the best team in the region, there should be no reason why, like going into playoffs with even more practice, we're not able to, I mean, contend and compete with all the best teams.
All right, that was straight to the
We
point and very
definitely
long.
showed some mental resilience today. It
Yeah,
can't get worse than that.
it can't get worse than that.
So it's only up from here.
All right, only up from here. Awesome. Dig season lives well and strong. Thank you for
Yeah.
your time. That was such a fun interview. I had so much fun doing that interview. It's strange because coach interviews can be. I was talking to Shibi about this. There's another interviewer that you should probably check out. But we were talking about coach interviews, and he was talking about how sometimes they're not the greatest. And I just thought, yeah, maybe it was a lot of fun. And so far, my experience with coaches honestly has been pretty good. I don't think I've ever had a bad coach interview, like personally, feeling wise. But it was fun to also reminisce on some of the stuff, like of when he was still a player and whatnot and things. But yeah, I actually tweeted after I finished. I was like, man, that was a really fun interview. I think I said like that was a banger interview or something like that. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed. And maybe you learned a thing or two about Dignitas because that was the point. It wasn't necessarily the game. Well, I did focus on that a little bit. It was more like how's Dig working and how is this coach working with them. If I get a chance to talk to Treats, I will. But as of right now, I don't have that option. So hope you enjoyed.